Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here. Welcome to a very special live stream. Two today, guys. Two live streams today. I know. I've got another one coming in about 3 hours' time. I was originally going to do it at 7 p.m, but I thought I'd do it now to give myself a bit of time. To be fair, I've got everything ready for tonight, for the 9 o'clock show, guys. And I originally had a video scheduled for today, but I've moved that video. It's not really a really vital video, so I've moved it to Saturdays, which you guys could check out there. Hope you're all doing well. I'm going to assume the volume and everything is right. I had some camera issues before I come on as well. So, so obviously today we had the COVID inquiry, which we've been having every day. But we had the former Health Secretary Matt Handcock, and I watched pretty much the vast majority of it. Now, obviously, there's a lot of clips that we need to look into, and there's a lot of clips online that I want to share with you guys. I'm not sure if we're going to watch all of them or not, but we'll see how time permits us as well, because I do want to have dinner in between this live stream and a later one here. I'm just going to say, for those who are here in the chat, Hugh, good to see you, buddy. Suzanne, good to see you. Colin from New York, good to see you. And Lefty Bar, I hope you guys are all well. So let me just share my initial thoughts on Matt Hancock's performance. I thought it was atrocious. At times, I felt he was incredibly disrespectful to Hugo Keith, who is simply, in my opinion, was. Some people think he was quite aggressive to Matt Handcock. In actual fact, I think he was being very firm and fair to Hancock during the inquiry today, and I thought he gave Matt Handcock a lot of space. Tried to be as flexible as possible. One of the things that I learnt today is that Keir Starmer is no longer Captain Hindsight. Matt Handcock is apparently now the new Captain Hindsight. I lost track of how many times Matt Handcock said in hindsight, in hindsight, in hindsight. And I felt like at times he just tried to skate around the issues that were taking place as well, which was driving me up the wall. And it was incredibly frustrating, to say the least, guys. I'm not sure if we should do the article or the video first. I think what we'll do, I think we'll look at some comments from the live feed from The Guardian, and then we're going to go to Twitter, and then we'll look at some clips there. Congrats on the 400 milestone. Oh, thanks, Lefty Boater. I'm not going to jump about it, because I've reached that milestone before, and then it just dropped like 1 or 2. So it's all well and good, but if it goes over a couple more, then I'll probably shout a bit more about it. But thank you. Yep. As of right now, this time of recording, I have met the threshold for there's two criterias I need to meet to become a YouTube member. I have reached one of those criterias in the last from yesterday. I found out I've been able to reach one of the criterias. So the only other criteria is reaching at least 500 subscribers, which at the moment, as of right now, we are 100 away from membership. So, but thank you for that. So let's start with the it's this. So one of the first. There's so many things to digest, guys. So I'll try and dive through as much as possible. So Matt Handcock said he was not told about the Eat Out to Help Out scheme until the day it was announced. So it says here he was asked, did you know about the Eat Out to Help Out scheme until the cabinet meeting on the day it was announced? If you had been told about it in advance, what would you have said? His answer is, I don't know. Now, call me crazy, guys, but you're going to say you don't know on something as major as that. That's quite mind-boggling. You're the Health Secretary of State. And what was really, really stupid is he actually kind of saved him here, because he goes on to say, but as Secretary of State, you are plainly on the side of caution. Hancock says it was important overall to ensure there wasn't too much opening up. So he basically gave him a bye at this point. in that point there, because he could have just left him hanging, Hugo, there with that question, and instead he gave him a reason to actually say something. And he said what matters in the opening was that there wasn't overall too much, and in the end there was overall too much. Which individuals you have opened, you did or didn't do, and in the second compared to the overall amount of opening. But he said at the time he was also trying to get funding to help people who tested positive to isolate. Hancock seemed to be implying that he had a reason not to pick a fight with the Treasury, but he did not say explicitly. Did you express reservations about it? Hancock said he argued against it being extended, and it was not extended. He said the government had a R budget and he could introduce various measures as long as the collective did not push the R above 1. He repeated the point about wanting money from the Treasury, this time saying explicitly that he was motivated by a desire to keep the Chancellor on side. Some of the other points here that he's had. This point here, Matt Handcock defends saying increasing testing and contact tracing in hand, he was stating here. So Keith showed Hancock an exchange in messages on the 14th of March where Hancock was saying they needed to ramp up contact tracing and scale up testing. He said both measures are in hand. So he asked him what did he meant by in hand. Hancock said he had issues in instructions to reverse both these measures. On testing, the problem was the shortage of tests. He subsequently took responsibility for testing back from Public Health England into DHSC, and he escalated it. And he said the PHE had stopped contact tracing. Hancock said he arranged it to resume on a large scale, and self-tracing was introduced, which became the app. He said this is what the reference to the meaning of being in hand is about, both becoming big programs. Lady Harlett, the chair, asked if the measures were actually in hand on the 14th of March. Hancock said he meant he was making them happen. That's what he was stating there. Obviously, the big one there. I'm going to actually go to the videos here, guys. So this, I'm going to switch camera. So I'm going to disappear for you guys. This is a brilliant video from Peter Stefanovic, guys, where he absolutely destroys Matt Handcock. So the former Health Secretary Matt Handcock told the COVID inquiry it's not fair to say that scientists knew about asymptomatic transmissions for sure in mid-March 2020. Well, let's take a look at that. So enjoy this one, guys.
The stage was reached, wasn't it, in early March, around about the 10th and the 11th, that regardless of the science on asymptomatic transmission, that was the correct approach. You simply had to plan on the basis that it was.
It is not fair to say that the scientists knew for sure about this by mid-March.
Former Health Secretary Matt Handcock telling the COVID inquiry it's not fair to say the scientists knew about asymptomatic transmission for sure in mid-March 2020. We'll now listen to England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty answering questions from MPs on 5th of March 2020.
There is a large iceberg of people who've got asymptomatic infection, so a very large number of people have been infected in Hubei without being detected. The reason we don't detect them is we do not currently have a test which can say, a serological test, which can say this person has been infected even though they never had symptoms.
So just straight away, right off the bat there, guys, you can tell that things already... So either the Chief Scientific Officer here is misleading that committee, or Matt Handcock is lying under oath to the COVID inquiry. I'll let you guys decide that.
The then Health Secretary had been listening to BBC Radio 4 on March 13th, 2020. He would have heard the government's Chief Scientific Advisor Patrick Vallance say this.
It looks quite likely that there is some degree of asymptomatic transmission.
Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson himself acknowledged in a press conference on 18th of March the problems the virus posed.
The thing about this disease, it's an invisible enemy, and we don't know who's transmitting it.
So Johnson clearly knew at that time people without obvious symptoms might be amongst those transmitting the virus. Johnson directly commented on papers examining the issue at a COVID press conference on March 25th.
Just Patrick, on the numbers of people who have the disease asymptomatically, there was a study I saw quoted from some Oxford academics saying that as many as 50% may have had it asymptomatically, or I think a lot of people will have seen that story. How do you evaluate that at this stage?
We simply don't know at the moment, and that's why the antibody test is so important. So there are estimates that up to 80% or more of people in Wuhan weren't detected. There are estimates that of those who are positive, so that's a small percentage of the population who were tested positive, quite a number of them were asymptomatic in a town in Italy.
But it wasn't until 15th of April 2020 that the then Health Secretary introduced a policy to test care home patients before discharging them from hospital.
Today we've strengthened the rules so that all care home residents who are discharged from hospital will be tested before being admitted into their care home.
Now, just an important caveat here before we hear what Peter has to say, because this is really important. So, in the inquiry, a very important point was brought up that there was not enough testing at the time when this was happening. So, Matt Handcock said that, but there was not enough testing at the time. So he said to the inquiry, and it was the evidence. The COVID inquiry at that time was there was not enough sufficient testing. But what I didn't ever hear was I don't recall throughout the whole of the session today Jacob challenging Matt Handcock on why the social care was not told that they wouldn't be getting potentially positive cases coming to their care homes. He was not directly challenged on that, and I don't honestly remember that question being challenged at all. But but on the points of testing, it's very important that caveat was made that Matt Handcock made it clear in the inquiry that there was not enough sufficient testing at that time, guys. So just want to put that little caveat in there.
By that time, a staggering 25,000 people had already been discharged from hospital into care homes without being tested for coronavirus.
Yeah, so very important distinction to make there. Right, I'm going through all my bookmarks here. So right at the top of my bookmarks, where's the one from? I had one from Phil from A Different Bias, because he had a very important tweet there. If you guys see at the top, number 3's already commented on it. Stop talking, Matt. Now, we'll remind people that Matt Handcock wanted immunity from prosecution before giving evidence in spring. He didn't seem to get it, but there must be a reason he wanted it. Someone should ask him. Yes, someone should ask him, guys. Why do you think he wanted immunity? Where is the... So the first video I want to talk about is this one here, guys. This is the first one. So Matt Handcock finally admits that there was not a protective ring around care homes, when he made it very clear at the time there was.
I cannot improve on the glorious words of Professor Sir Jonathan Van Dam, who says in his statement, "My view is a ring is a circle without a break in it." However you describe the protective processes you put in place around the care sector, they did not form an unbroken circle, did they?
It is quite clear from the evidence that Professor Van Dam is right.
Yeah, thank you.
That's not what he said at the time. He said that we would put a ring around it. That's what he said, didn't he? You remember him standing on the podium and he said he would put a protective ring around them. Where there is one old clip that I want to bring up as well. Where is it? It's in my bookmarks, because I was taking a lot of clips from online here. Oh, this is this one here. I'll play this one for you guys. So this one just a reminder of how bad things are from MP Clive Lewis, just to give us all a bit of a faithful reminder.
This was a crisis, Clive Lewis, right, that any government would have struggled to have dealt with.
Of course, and governments all over the world did, but other governments had lower death rates. Other governments didn't have the Prime Minister and senior politicians saying, well, let COVID rip through them when he was talking about older people. You know, look, now we can begin to see just tantalising glimpses of what went on behind closed doors, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, the sense of entitlement that Boris Johnson and others around him had. No wonder people feel like there's no trust in politicians. When your Sure Start centres have been smashed, your healthcare system is being broken apart. But people who saved us during COVID, the health workers, now can't even get paid. I'm on their picket line. So, you know...
I think he made a point, clear enough point there. Let me just... check and make sure. I'm just checking out. There was a clip someone had of Matt Handcock, and I'm pretty sure I saved it. That was back when he seems to have misplaced it. Yeah, apparently I didn't save it, which is a shame. Okay, we're gonna go through this Twitter handle. I've used him before, guys, from the Cove inquiry. Make sure if you have Twitter, make sure you check him out. He also has Instagram as well at Implausible Blog, so do check him out. We're going to scroll down. We're going to look at several different clips from him. We'll start with this one here. So, so he was asked, you said you threw a protective ring around care homes. And Matt Handcock says, I understand why people feel strongly about this. We put $3 billion into the care sector, free PPE, etc. I was trying to summarise what action we had taken. In my view, protective ring, yeah, so...
You said right from the start, it's been clear, we tried to throw a protective ring. Do you acknowledge that the phrase...
Look at his face, by the way. That is a very defeated man. And he got absolutely hammered all throughout this inquiry, really did.
Trying to throw a protective ring, and the reference right from the start, was open to interpretation. People would take from those words what they wished, and there's certainly an argument for saying that that was giving the clear impression that there was a impermeable barrier, whether in terms of finance, fiscal support, testing, or discharge staff residential movements within the care sector.
I entirely understand why people feel strongly about this. When I first said that, I then went on to explain what I meant, that we put over £3 billion into the care sector in March and April, that we'd released PPE, free PPE, that we'd put in place infection control guidance based on the scientific advice, etc. And in fact, in that press conference, I went on to list the different things that we were doing. And in fact, as part of the plan we were launching that day, we made another £600 million available for infection control purposes. And so I was trying to simply summarise that we had taken action, and I set out the action.
That is understood. I cannot improve on the glorious words of Professor Sir Jonathan Van Dam.
And we heard that other bit where he basically... it's... Why would you say that you have put a protective ring around it when you haven't put a protective ring around it? That's the thing that really grinds my gears, guys. I just don't understand how he could say such a thing. This is yeah, so here's another one, guys. So this is an interesting one here. Actually, I should stop. Oh, have I gone too far? Sorry, 1 second, guys. Oh, what have I done? Oh, I've just lost it. There we go. I almost lost it there. So this one is from Hugo Keith about Dominic Cummings about certain messages taking place. So he says, Dominic Cummings sent round messages saying we're negatively killing the most vulnerable in care homes. I'm extremely worried. Was this a reflection of policy, not reflecting the reality with regards to testing? So let's listen to this. I know not everybody here has listened to the inquiry, so I'm going to give you guys a bit of an insight on some of the things that were discussed during the inquiry.
Your clinical advisors, whoever it was who promulgated the policies, could not day in, day out practically at residential care sector level guarantee everybody a test or practically make them available. This was an extremely complex, difficult system, and you could not ensure or guarantee that there would be tests available for everyone in accordance with the policy. So it's impossible.
Yes. However, what I'm saying is when we were devising the policy, we tried to take that into account as much as possible, but you can't take it into account entirely.
Of course. I mean, that's, for me, it's an obvious point. Yeah. So in the WhatsApp group to which you were a contributor, the group I've mentioned earlier, CSA, CMO, Matt, PM, Dom, you will recall, Mr. Hancock, that in May, Mr. Cummings says, I don't understand why we're still not testing more care home staff, including asymptomatic. Yeah. And Sir Patrick Vallon says the testing is fully owned in DHSC. If we don't get on top of the spread, we risk the rest. And you say, we've been doing this for the past week, and that's dated the 3rd of May, and that must be a reference back to probably the 28th of April policy, or perhaps one of the earlier policies. Mr. Cummings, as you know, sends round a message saying we're negligently killing the most vulnerable, and I'm extremely worried. Trying to be as neutral as you can in terms of your dealings with Mr. Cummings, was this explosive, the communications are very explosive, this explosive row as to what was being done, a reflection of that difficulty that policy may not reflect the reality of what tests were actually in place up and down the land in the care sector?
Now, just before we hear from Matt Handcock, I just want to remind you, obviously, everyone was beating up Matt Handcock in the run-up to this, run-up to his time sitting down. And Dominic Cummings also buried Matt Handcock 6 feet under while he was giving evidence to the inquiry. If I find the tweet along here, guys, I'll bring it up as well. And just hearing Dominic Cummings saying about people are going to die, reminding the Health Secretary about the responsibilities, I still feel that, did he really take responsibilities for his actions and what he done? Is he really taking everything on board, all the advice and all the information on board when he was Health Secretary? And the straightforward answer I have for you guys is no, I don't think he did.
It was a reflection, in my opinion, of two things. The first is that you can find examples on the ground where the policy set in Whitehall doesn't match entirely. But it's also a reflection of the fact that, unfortunately, the Prime Minister's chief advisor didn't always try to ascertain the facts before making comments. He did this over the testing target towards the end of March, which we hit when he provided misinformation to the Prime Minister.
Mr. I've given you ample opportunity to comment on the allegations that Mr. Cummings has made about you.
The point is they're false, so you can't actually take anything that he wrote in that as true.
So he's calling Dominic Cummings a liar here. Just putting that out.
Because in that case, it didn't accord with the facts. And I just gave another example, and therefore it's quite difficult to answer in a substantive way about the planning of future pandemics when the comments that I was receiving were not based on the truth.
So you say. I want to find the big one. There was a really big one that really was quite. Where's the big one? There was a big one where. Yeah, this is it. So Matt Handcock admit he did not read the SAGE minutes. This is going to really infuriate me. So as the Health Secretary of State, guys, it is so important, so important that you read everything. Like even I am not an expert. I'm not a minister, and nobody here is listening is an expert. But surely you're going to take all the information that is provided. Now he's going to claim in the video here that he was not given the daily updates. But I'll pause it. I'll probably pause it 1 or 2 times during this 3-minute clip, and you guys can make what you will of this one.
Hey, Professor Whitty.
Did you not read the minutes?
Later in the pandemic, I took the minutes directly, but at this early stage, I was given a readout from Professor Whitty.
Did anybody know that the Secretary of State for Health was not reading the minutes day in, day out from the sole Scientific Advisory Committee on Emergencies?
I don't know.
You don't know. He doesn't know, and he wasn't given the info. Okay. Just let that sink in for a moment, guys, while you contemplate your comment there. He did not know.
the evidence before this inquiry, Mr. Hancock, is that the minutes were deliberately consensus-driven and short. They were quite short.
Yeah.
To enable them to be read by Cabinet Office, DHSC, Civil Contingency Secretariat, Number 10, and so on. But they weren't read by you.
They certainly were when they were presented to me, and they were and they came up and they were reported to me by the CMO, and this is my understanding of the situation at the time.
Is it me, or does he come across like that he didn't intentionally go out of his way to read these reports? You hear the way he was stuttering, and his body language there gives an indication that he wasn't taking it seriously. That's how I'm interpreting this, guys. That's how I'm interpreting the body language and the way he's responding to this really major issue here.
Can I press you, please, to help us with when you first regularly started being presented with and reading?
I asked for them at some point in February to be regularly put in my box alongside being. But the formal process was not that. I mean, we can come on to this because I've got quite a lot of thoughts about how this interaction operated, and it's very, very important. With hindsight, I think I should have gone and listened directly to the debate in Sage. I don't think that would have.
You what? You shouldn't have needed hindsight to know that. You're the health secretary.
With the pitch, but the process of Sage was that Sage was a committee that, remember, at this point did not have the sort of nationally known significance that it does now. It was a group of scientists who came together to make recommendations and bring the science to the CSO and the CMO.
Regardless of their public prominence, Mr. Hancock, the position is that SAGE was the sole body providing science on the characteristics of the virus, what it amounted to, what the threat was, what in theory could be done, and the minutes from that body, which were being produced on a tri-weekly basis, were not, you say, being put before the Secretary of State responsible for public health.
Not in the first instance until I asked for them, but also
until. This is the thing that kind of just baffles my mind. Not until he asked for them. Now, surely he should not even... Like, the thing is, until he asked for them initially, like, hello, like, you're the Secretary of State for Health. You should have got them straight away. I mean, I just don't understand this. I really don't.
Also, the premise of your question is not correct. They were not the sole and only body. They had subcommittees like SPIAM, there was NERVTAG, which reported formally into the department, and of course there was a much wider body of publicly debated scientific advice. So SAGE was an important body, but I think that it would be wrong to fetishize the existence of and the role of SAGE.
Was there another scientific body concerned with emergencies for the United Kingdom government?
Yes, NERVTAG, for instance.
NERVTAG was a DHSC subcommittee which reported on new and emerging viral threats, an advisory group reporting to DHSC. What other scientific emergency body provided advice to the United Kingdom government?
As I said, NERVTAG did to me through JVT, he was my rapporteur on NERVTAG, and then SAGE, of course, had a number of subcommittees.
Right.
This other one here, yeah, he basically, Matt Handcock, I'm not going to read that one, and we'll leave that one. I'm just trying to find the really important ones, guys, the really key ones, because there's quite a lot of them here. I'm just going to have a quick look in the chat. I'm just going to come, I'm just going to come out of this for a moment, guys, and just say hello, because I know I can't in the chat, in that chat there, but I'm just going to say, who have I not said hello to? Number 3, good to see you. Jow, Suzanne, Akisman, good to see you all. Ruth, good to see you. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you, if you're having dinner, that's all right. Hope you're all doing well. I'm just going to scroll down and see what you guys are saying hello, hello, hello. I'll be asking solicitors soon about taking the government to court. So it's number 3. What sensible manager would not seek advice? Exactly, number 3. If he was paid, accountable, and responsible for something, he should have known and cared. If he did not, he was negligent, and effing people die responsible for negligence and their death. Yeah, well said. Is Duke here? Am I going mad? Is he here? I don't know if he's here. It's over 20. Yeah. So. This is quite an interesting one here. I'm actually going to open up this one. So before we play it. So Keith asked him on the February the 28th, you said number 10 was stopping the Prime Minister Boris Johnson from saying something publicly about the virus. Yes, and we should have locked down on March the 2nd. If we did, fewer than 1 in 10 people who died in the first wave would have died.
On the 28th of February, your statement records, however, that your belief that number 10 was stopping the Prime Minister from saying publicly anything about the virus.
Yes. So the 27th of... Sorry.
And you knew that that was because there was a concern that it would be seen to be overreacting.
Yeah, the 28th of February was an important day in the response, and it was important in this way. I had a readout from the SAGE on the 27th, which both took the paper on NPIs that we've just been talking about and also discussed the 1% IFR figure. The 1% IFR figure is very important because if you have a 1% fatality rate at an 80% of the population getting it, you end up with a reasonable worst case scenario of just over 500,000 people dying. And I found that out on the evening of the 27th, if I recall correctly. On the 28th, I was still not being allowed to communicate in the way I'd want on this, not able to go on certain radio shows, including the Today programme, which is a very important part of the national debate. And I phoned up the Prime Minister, and I remember it very well, because he didn't take the call, and then he called me back, and I was in a classroom in a primary school in Suffolk, in Haverhill, in my constituency, and I had to say to the kids, I'm really sorry the Prime Minister's calling, I've got to go. And it was quite a moment. I came out and I said, Prime Minister, you need to chair a COBRA, and we need to be able to communicate properly, including on all of the programmes, instead of having this political boycott.
So right here, Matt Handcock is trying to basically say, at this very point, is that communication, this is around the 27th, 28th of February, that they're not getting clear, there's not clearer communication between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister here, which is absolutely bonkers when given what was happening over in Italy, what has already been going on in China. You would have think that the line between the Prime Minister and the Health Secretary at this very point, at the end of February, you would think that it would be very much clearer here. So this point, it comes across a little bit to me. Now, he's not burying the Prime Minister, but it just seems like he's kind of to push some of the blame game, shall we say, on other people.
That led to, I wanted a COBRA that day, and I told him he should chair a COBRA immediately. In the end, we had the COBRA on the Monday, which I think was the 2nd of March. Over that weekend, I went out and communicated in public about all the things that we might have to do. We might have to close some schools. We might have to shut down whole cities. I don't rule anything out, I said. And that all flowed from this phone call on the morning of the 28th of February. And I regard that as the moment that the centre of government, led by the Prime Minister, really started to come into action. And if I may say so, with hindsight...
He says hindsight a lot. I'm so sick of him saying with hindsight.
Italy having locked down initially locally in Lombardy on the 21st of January, and then nationally locked down around also the 28th of February, if at that moment, having seen the SAGE assumptions, which they didn't properly fully adopt, but nevertheless, and you've heard from the scientists on that, if at that moment we'd realised that it was definitely coming and the reasonable worst case scenario was as awful as it was, that is the moment that we should, with hindsight, have acted. And if we'd had the doctrine that I propose, which is as soon as you know you've got to lock down, you lock down as soon as possible, then we would have got the lockdown done over that weekend, in on the 2nd of March, 3 weeks earlier than before. There's a doubling rate at this point estimated every 3 to 4 days. We would have been 6 doublings ahead of where we were, which means that fewer than a tenth of the number of people would have died in the first wave. At the time, there was still enormous uncertainty. The number of cases was still very low. In fact, there were only 12 cases reported on the 1st of March. So you can understand why, and the costs of what I'm just proposing were known and huge. So
Never mind the costs. And this was the thing. I'm going to stop on that clip there because I'm not going to hear the excuse of anything cost-wise. okay, the point that he's trying to make there is not everyone had all the information, and I get that. He didn't have all the information in front of him. Oh, have I not? Let me go back to. He did not have all the information in front of him, and I get that. I honestly get that. But still, that doesn't excuse the fact that the cases were already rising in Portugal. We were already seeing what was going on. We've already read that one, and it was just not good enough in any way, shape, or form, guys. It really is there is so much information here. I've got to give this guy credit. He was on the ball throughout all of this, guys. I'm trying to find. There's one in particular I want to find. It was the really one that really blew up. Where is it? Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to find. There's one clip in particular that really. We've read that one. Right, I did not see the initial start of the initial start of it as well. I'm just trying to find. Where's the one? Apologies, guys. I'm trying to find. There was a clip I had before, and I appear to have misplaced it. Okay, let's listen to this one because this is an interesting one here. So it says, Hugo asked him basically about people questioning his job. So let's just hear what we have to say here.
The fact that the Prime Minister, his chief advisor, the Deputy Cabinet Secretary, the Cabinet Secretary all questioned your candour and in large part fitness for the job is a vital issue to any examination of how well the system responded. This is an extraordinary state of affairs.
Well, the inquiry can, if it chooses, get to the bottom of each of the specific allegations because they are not true, and I'm very happy to write with an explanation of each and every one of them. Of course, the impact of the toxic culture that essentially was caused by the chief advisor, but that clearly I can now see, not that I knew at the time, others were brought into, that was unhelpful. On the other hand, in the heat of a crisis, people say things, especially on WhatsApp, which is essentially conversational, that they don't, that they may not be their full considered opinion. For instance, the Cabinet Secretary also described me as can do in a note to the Prime Minister. So, I think there's a broader view, and also I got on with him perfectly well through the whole thing, and afterwards, and it's only because of this inquiry that I've seen the language that he was using behind
your back. Yeah, because he was he was the health secretary. This is the thing. He was the health secretary. Good evening, Drew. I hope you're doing well. I don't think screaming that is going to make a difference, Duke. Suzanne says, I seem to recall certain anti-EU people pointing fingers at the EU and blaming open borders, patting themselves on the back on having the good sense to leave. I'm the good guy. Everyone else is at fault. Another child in charge. Yeah. That's exactly it. Aki's mad saying here, not here, under this type of inquiry, I don't think you can take in court in private prosecution and be covered thereafter because it's an unusual event. Yeah, I don't. There may be some legalities because I was in a live chat. I don't know how many, if anyone here was in the live chat when I was watching it through Open Democracy's YouTube channel, and there may be some potential legalities that potentially they may be able to put on Matt Handcock, but I don't know how true that is, guys. I don't know how true that is. I'm not sure if this is going to extend to more to what we've just listened to, but Cummings Valence said you had lied, you have overexercised without evidence. So,
Diaries. Mr. Cummings, Sir Patrick Vallance in his diaries, Helen McNamara have made reference to you lying, to you getting overexcited and just saying stuff, that you say things which surprise people because they knew the evidence base wasn't there. Out of fairness to you, and because this is a vital issue that goes to how well the system of government was operating, you being, as you describe in your book, in the hot seat, how could, to a significant extent, important government advisors and officials have concluded that the Secretary of State for Health, in the maw of this public health crisis, in the maw of the beast, was a liar?
How do you guys think he responds? Now, just remember this. You have to keep banging your head on the wall, guys. I really have to stress this. He was the Secretary of State for Health. It's on his shoulders. Okay. Yes, ultimately, the decision is made by the Prime Minister, but he is the Secretary of State for Health, so he is in charge of all this. Yeah, and he can point fingers at other people he wants, but the end of the day, he is the one who makes the decision for the Department of Health and Social Care.
Well, I was not. You will note that there's no evidence from anybody who I worked with in the department or the health system who supported those false allegations. And indeed, where there have been specifics attached to any of those allegations, I've gone through them, and I'd be very happy to answer questions on any of them. And then in a couple of occasions, there were general sweeping allegations which had no evidence whatsoever. In one case, the witness said, I haven't got this in black and white. Well, of course not, because it wasn't true. And in another case, the witness said the accountability and governance arrangements didn't pick this up. Well, they didn't because, again, the allegation wasn't true. What there was a great deal of hard work on our side and a toxic culture that we had to work with, which seemed to want to find people to blame rather than spend all of their effort solving the problems. And it's, maybe, as I've said before, I drove the system hard. Sometimes the people I was trying to push into action didn't think the action was necessary. And that's already been very clear. I didn't know about most of this at the time. I knew that it was difficult getting stuff through the centre, but
it just sounds like, again, that he's trying to kind of like point the finger elsewhere, or just trying to deflect, something like that. And he just, once again, guys, it just feel like pointing the finger elsewhere, just looking to someone else to blame for his mistakes. Now here, he was asked if Dominic Cummings exercised too much of an influence. What do you guys think?
Are you in a position to comment on that particular aspect? That is to say, whether or not a special advisor exercised too great an influence on the decision-making process. And I invite you, please, to stick to this rigid structural issue. In terms of the decision-making ability of the Prime Minister, was there too great an influence operated?
At times, yes.
Right.
And I'll be very specific about what I thought went wrong. As the COBRA system was running, in February, the Prime Minister's chief advisor decided that he didn't like the COBRA system, that is on the record, and he decided instead to take all of the major daily decisions into his office. And he invited a subset of the people who needed to be there to these meetings. He didn't invite any ministers. He didn't regard ministers as a valuable contribution to any decision-making, as far as I could see in the crisis, or indeed any other time.
Bit of a cheap shot there, isn't it?
And
so that's the COBRA.
He took the decisions, attempted to take them from the COBRA process to a meeting that he ran daily at 8 a.m. He invited some of the right people, but not all of them. He didn't check with me beforehand and clashed it directly with my daily meeting, which was frustrating because we had a daily meeting in the department to feed into the Prime Minister's meeting at 9:15. The reason these meetings are important is because there is a proper government emergency response system, and it was actively circumvented. And in one of these early meetings, the chief advisor said, decisions don't need to go to the Prime Minister. Now, that is inappropriate in a democracy.
So, I just want to just pause it there for a moment, guys. Now, in some of the previous evidence that has been given into this inquiry, I'm going to cut to me, guys, because I think before we come back to that clip. So, in some of the previous evidence, you recall, we know that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister at the time, is a bit of a buffoon. 91 Lee's good to see you. For some reason, I can't see you in the chat. Maybe I'm going mad. I don't know. I see everyone saying hello to you, but I don't actually see you in the chat. I don't know why. So I hope you're doing well. The thing is that they didn't want to go directly to him because he's allegedly an idiot. So rather than have him, and what the idea from Dominic Cummings was, allegedly what he has said and what other people have said is that he was basically attempting to basically be like the Grima Wormtongue, shall we say, of this, and basically be the eyes and ears of the Prime Minister and keep everyone out of place so that they have to go through him before going through the Prime Minister, sort of thing, because the Prime Minister is too stupid to understand things. Well, the problem is that he is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and unfortunately, even though he's a bit of a buffoon, he still needs to know this information. So I will have to say on this part, while I understand why, oh, that's probably why. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Julia. Thank you for that. Yeah. Excuse me. I don't know why it's on that. So I'm just losing my train of thought here. Even though he's a bit of a buffoon and a bit of a dum-dum, and we've seen some of that claims, and it'd be interesting when Boris Johnson comes and sits at the COVID inquiry how he's able to make his words. He's still the Prime Minister, and he still needs to be given the information and to be shut out. And I have to agree with Matt Handcock here in saying that it's not right that Dominic Cummings is trying to take control of the situation, and that the COVID meetings were important. Were they right? Were they always right? No, but they are important. So I think on that part, in that sense, I think I have to agree with Matt Handcock on this.
Democracy, and I saw it simply as essentially a power grab, but it definitely got in the way of organising the response for the period it was in operation. It was then replaced with the MIG system, which was better.
So he says.
We've discussed the structural problem, which was essentially an advisor trying to take executive authority away from the Prime Minister for a period until the Cabinet Secretary stopped it and put in place the MIG process. But there was also effectively a cultural problem, which is that there was a culture of fear inculcated by the behaviour of this particular individual. He did, in the middle of February, effectively cause the resignation of the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Previously, just before... It is important.
No, Mr. Hancock, please forgive me. The determination of what's important is really for the questioner. If my lady believes that you're answering, I'm preventing you from raising something that's important, she will no doubt correct me.
Yeah.
The issue of the resignation of the Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't appear to me to be of great moment in the context of the coronavirus response.
It was. Let me explain why.
Well,
you can see the finger pointing here. There was real, you could tell there was blood between Matt Handcock and Dominic Cummings. They did not like each other one bit. I'm just going to stop and just see what you guys are saying in the chat. Bit of a buffoon. He was colossal waste of air, power and resources, Chief Ventures. Yeah, that's true. I will never forgive nor forget what these people did, says 91 Lazy. Yeah, I know. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for feeling that way. I do not understand how the family members of the dead are not storming the streets. I cannot understand the lack of pressure and demanding of responsibility from these actions, says Ja. That's called media influence. That is. A decent government system would have proceedings in place to manage the Muppets, says number 3. Muppets is a good comparison, says Colin Thompson. It is indeed. It is indeed.
If you wish to simply explain.
Yeah. It was, in just 2 sentences.
Please, shortly.
It was because it inculcated a culture of fear, whereas what we needed was a culture where everybody was brought to the table and given their heads to do their level best in a once-in-a-generation crisis. The way to lead in a crisis like this is to give people the confidence to do what they think needs to happen, and it caused the opposite of that.
May we...
Yeah. Well, didn't go to plan, did it? Where is? I'm just trying to find one of the other ones. Did you ponder the wisdom? This one. I've checked my phone records, which have come to light since. This is a real WTF moment here, guys. Yeah, the media. You have to remember the media are suppressing. They're not giving everyone the full information. So Matt Handcock's here. It comes to light with information. What's this all about?
I've had the chance to check because you questioned the phone call I made to the Prime Minister. It was at 3:34 that afternoon. I've been at 3:24. I've been able to check my phone records, which have I've come to light since. Hold on.
No, Mr. Hancock. You know perfectly well that we have scoured every possible source for documents and material relevant to the issues in this inquiry. Are you saying that you have a record of a phone call which you've not disclosed to this inquiry?
No, there isn't. There's only a record that the phone call took place.
So you don't know what you said in that phone call?
I do.
Who do you believe? Matt Handcock or Hugo Keith of the COVID inquiry? I mean, you got to surely think in that moment, guys, he's bullshitting. How can he claim to have a phone call that the COVID inquiry would not have when they have scoured every single piece of evidence in this inquiry? Can any of you figure that out? Because surely all the evidence would have been pointed out there. It's just that one just really grinds my gears. It really does. I want to just show you. This is another big one here. I'm glad I got this one here. So, Valence to Whitty, why the PM and Matt Handcock are saying we didn't know about asymptomatic transmissions. Whitty saying I have no idea.
The government's chief scientific advisor and the chief medical officer on the 24th of July, where Sir Patrick Vallon says, why the Prime Minister and Matt Handcock saying we didn't know about asymptomatic transmission?
Exactly.
Chris Whitty, I have no idea. We didn't know how important they were, that is correct, but we were aware of the possibility. But it is correct, we thought transmission was most likely after symptoms, like SARS. Not by March. I think we were pretty clear that we thought there was asymptomatic transmission. We'll have to put up with quite a bit of this, just as well the Sage minutes are public domain. And that's a reference, Mr. Hancock, to the material which I've summarised for you.
Yes. Do you know who unknown is?
Yeah, unknown, as I've said, is Sir Patrick Vallance.
Okay.
The first entry is Sir Patrick Vallance. So would you acknowledge that the Chief Medical Officer and the Chief Scientific Advisor are stating there that they did know and they told you and the Prime Minister about the significance of asymptomatic transmission and the degree of it, and they are confounded by the notion that you and the Prime Minister are now apparently saying you didn't know about it?
We're not apparently saying anything. We are clearly stating the position that was put to us as the scientific position, based on the global international scientific position, which was to base policy on an assumption of no asymptomatic transmission as set out by PHE. That is what is being referred to in the first of these messages. And I assume this is a shorthand from Patrick Vallance saying, why is PM and Matt Handcock saying we didn't know? What we were saying was the error was that the scientific advice required or formally advised that policy should be based on an assumption of no asymptomatic transmission. And the problem here in this exchange is demonstrated by the words pretty clear. We were pretty clear that we thought, right? If the government chief scientific advisor knew, as opposed to was pretty clear and thought, then that may have changed the UK scientific position. But he didn't know. As we've seen, there was huge uncertainty. I'm not blaming him at all for this. There was huge uncertainty on this question. And it is deeply frustrating to me now, and it was deeply frustrating to me at the time, that being pretty clear was not good enough to change the scientific advice I was receiving on which to base policy.
All right.
I mean, yeah. I'm not going to upload the volume on this one, but
Learning that came out of it.
just look at this man's body language, and you can just see how deflated he is. It's just, and funnily enough, believe it or not, he's actually wearing. There was he had a comparison one as well, saying. I'm trying to remember what was the other. There was one other part as well. Where is that? I really should have organised my videos a bit more, guys, so I do apologise. It's delay forward. I'm trying to find the really good, the best ones. Oh, this one. Cabinet Secretary Mark Sickles about Hancock on reaching 100k test targets. What is this all about, guys? Oh dear, this one really grinds my gears.
On the 1st of May, the Cabinet Secretary WhatsApped you to say, "Hi, Matt. Well done this evening. Creative counting and 122,000." You respond, although it looks like question marks. In fact, it was a 3-kiss emoji.
I told you we got on well.
Well, yes, but you appear also to be accepting his perhaps jocular observation that you'd engage in creative counting.
This reference is about how we went about counting a new innovation, which was tests that people did at home, on which there was.
This is nothing but a load of hogwash. He made up a target to make himself look good, and when that target was met, he got a nice pat on the back, and now to make himself feel good about himself. That's what that clip is all about. That's what this is all about.
Work in the department. The permanent secretary.
Mr. Hancock, I'm so sorry. In the interest of time, can I just ask you, and I'm doing this in order to be scrupulously fair to you, do you accept or reject the suggestion of creative counting?
I reject it, and on every different way you could possibly count these measures, we hit that target.
I know, guys. I know. This is another. This will be the last one we'll play, guys. There was one other one I was trying to find and I couldn't find it, but this one was through Sky News. And Hugo Keith questions Matt Handcock on why he didn't tell the public that the wall of death were coming. And he said he explained that this may happen, but I was a team player and the government position was not yet.
The effect of the DHSC was a siren voice calling for more to be done, for trying to push the government machine on. But by the 12th of March, as you knew very well, the United Kingdom government had reached the end, even by that late stage, of the containment phase of the strategy. The virus was rife. Should you not have been taking this opportunity to tell your colleagues in government, telling the public, telling the citizens of this nation, this wall of death is coming, and we have no effective means to deal with it other than to impose infection control measures urgently and significantly?
Well, in my public communications, you will know that I had at that point been explaining that we might have to do that, yes. But I'm also a team player, and the government position was not yet. So this was a message about how to best explain the government position of not yet.
So he knew. So essentially, what he's basically saying there, guys, is that although he saw things were getting worse, but he couldn't break ranks. Basically, that he had to be in it with the rest of them. And you have to, he instead of being a man of common sense here, because that's what he's trying to do, right? He's saying everybody else is the fools, I'm the smart one. They're all idiots, I'm the smart one here. Yeah? In this point right there, he should have been the one standing there shouting, we are in trouble and we need to do something ASAP. And he didn't do that. And it's just so effing infuriating.
As I say, the position of not yet was running to the end of its road, and it was on the very next day that I first told the Prime Minister that I thought that we needed to lock down.
Was that the 13th of March?
Correct.
It's not in your diary, so-called, I should say, Mr. Hancock. The entry for the 13th of March makes no reference to you telling the Prime Minister this vital piece of information that he should lock down immediately. There is a whole page on how you woke up for the dawn flight to Belfast and Edinburgh Airport.
Yeah.
There was, from the Prime Ministerial meeting, Prime Ministerial papers, a video call 9:30 that morning, and according to your book, you say, I called the Prime Minister and told him we'd have to do some very rapid backpedaling on the issue of herd immunity.
Yeah.
Then rang Patrick, who promised to do his best to repair the damage.
Yeah.
You then met with First Minister in Belfast. You then went to Cardiff, and so on.
Yes.
Telling the Prime Minister of this country for the first time that he had to call an immediate lockdown is surely worthy of some recollection, is it not?
Why would that be not on record, guys? Unless, of course, he never said it.
I didn't have full access to my papers for writing of that, and this...
Hold on. What did he just say there? I did not have access to all my papers just there. I'm just going to scroll that back a bit, just so you guys could hear that again. Yeah, what did he say? I didn't have full access to my papers, says the Health Secretary of State.
Some recollection, is it not?
I didn't have full access to my papers for writing of that, and...
Just let that sink in for a second. I did not have my papers.
This came to light in looking... In researching the papers ahead of this inquiry. This is, after all, the formal public inquiry. What then happened is, that was on the 13th, which was the Friday. On the 14th, we then had formal meetings in the cabinet room on this subject, and I again made my views very clear. But if you this shift from we should wait because we've got to get the timing right to we must act now happened quickly.
Well, it obviously didn't happen quickly enough, did it? Clearly, it did not happen quickly enough, guys. I mean, it's just damn right ridiculous. I'm going to take you guys to... I did have one more article after, and I am aware of time. I'm just going to come and just see what you guys are saying in the chat. With that other, as there are more videos, clips out there, but if you go and have a look at that Twitter handle, you can have a look at some of the clips yourself, but I could also understand if you guys have had enough of it. 91 Lee saying he's a lying little SH something T. Is that the wall as well where VIP pub mate went missing from? They're not going to ask about that, unfortunately. Duke Vengeance says he sounds like a petulant child making excuses, smashing vases all over the floor, except a broken vase, 22,000 dead people. Yeah. Giles, just plug in the Patreon and other links if you guys want to support me, and any of them would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for that, Giles. Colin Thompson says, I'm amazed how the lawyers don't lose their composure when people giving testimony. Hugo Keith has been absolutely brilliant. I think just he knew that he knew what to expect, and there were times where it was a little bit tense, but most of the time he was very sound throughout the whole of it. Gio says, Tories are always creative with counting. They count when it suits them. Yeah. Number 3 says, BOLLOCKS. As a leader, you should assume the worst case scenario, asymptomatic transmission in this case. Yeah. Deeply frustrating, bloody well infuriating, says Suzanne. I know. Oh, really? Because it seems like you're blaming him. Yeah, he's blaming Cummings, apparently, or blaming Boris. This process does reveal lies rather well, yeah. Plus the crime itself, omission and reaction. It's like a child thinking he can pull the wool over the headmaster's head, says Ruth. Yep. What's the penalty for lying under oath? I don't know if there is a penalty for lying under oath, if I'm absolutely honest, guys. So I did have one more article after this, but I'm gonna leave the article, the other one, for now, because it was one on Dominic Raab which I wanted to cover, but given the time, we'll probably leave it with this one. So straight away out, Matt Handcock denies claims he lied about the COVID plans. The former health secretary insists there's no evidence of any accusations that he didn't tell the truth. Matt Handcock has denied claims he lied during the pandemic, insisting there is no evidence to show that he's not telling the truth. Speaking at the COVID inquiry today, Hancock was shown evidence where he claimed on multiple occasions that the UK had concrete, up-to-date pandemic plans in place. In the WhatsApp messages from 23rd of January 2020, he claimed that we have full plans up to and including pandemic levels regulated, prepared and refreshed. And in a cabinet meeting documented from February 6 shows Hancock claiming the government had a plan to deal with this illness. But in a WhatsApp from the March the 12th, he wrote that we are better prepared than other countries. But Chris Whitty, the former chief medical officer at England, told the inquiry last week that there was complete absence of plan and that the government did not have a plan for what was going to be useful from a prevention or management point of view. Helen Nakanara, the former deputy cabinet secretary, also told the inquiry that by March 2020 she had absolutely no idea that we did not have plans for what was coming. So are they both lying then, Matt Handcock? A coronavirus action plan was published on the 3rd of March 2020, which Nakamura called an extraordinary document that, as much of what was in the document had not been adequately tested or was not true for the circumstances it was in. It had been commissioned 21 days earlier. Hancock called the plan better than nothing and defended the claims he lied about the plans. He said they were planned documents such as the 2011 pandemic flu strategy, but those plans were not adequate. So he's claiming, when he said, that was a clip I wanted to show, him saying it was just better than nothing. Asked whether the coronavirus action plan was significantly flawed document, Hancock said it was better to have it out than driving action than nothing. Patrick Vallance, the former chief scientific advisor, claimed Hancock had a habit of saying things that he didn't have a basis for. But the former health secretary insisted he was not a liar and denied there was no plan. He was not a liar, he said. You will note that there is no evidence from anybody who I work with in the Department of Health who supported those false allegations. Where there have been specific attaches to those allegations, I've gone through them and I'd be very happy to answer the questions on any of them, he added. He was also quizzed by the Inquiry Council on when the country should have gone into lockdown when the alarm was raised. He claimed he told the PM on March the 13th to implement a lockdown. However, there's no written evidence of this and not mentioned by his memoirs, Pandemic Diaries, which is billed as the inside story of Britain's battle against COVID. The former health secretary resigned from his role after CCTV footage exposed him breaking coronavirus rules, said, with hindsight, had obviously thought about it and reflected on this a huge deal, the UK should have actually locked down on March the 2nd rather than the 23rd of March. He was also quizzed on why the government did not act early on the risks that coronavirus was asymptomatic. Initially, he thought that the virus was only transmitted when those infected had symptoms. Hancock said it is his single biggest regret that he did not expose this earlier, claiming that although he had abdical evidence, he did not have enough evidence to act. But messages from July 2020 seen at the inquiry shows Whitty and Vallance questioned why Hancock said he had no idea about asymptomatic spread in mid-March, and we saw the video from Peter Stefanovic which proved that. Vallance wrote, why are the PM and Hancock saying we do not know about asymptomatic transmission? Whitty replied saying that they did know about it, adding, we will have to put up with quite a lot of this. Despite this, Hancock claimed it's not true and that scientists had significant evidence on asymptomatic testing. The Imslip speaking over 2 days in the inquiry with the module examining political governance and decision making. It's not the first time he has appeared before the inquiry. There will be much more, as I've said, guys, to cover with this as well. But I'm probably going to have to leave it there given the time, and also we also have there will be more to talk about this as well, guys. So I'm just going to have a quick look in the chat before I hit the outro, before I just tell you guys what's happening with the channel and the live stream later on if you guys want to join me for that. There is no penalty. If there's no penalty, there's no oath. Family wants to spend time family wants to spend. Yep, no worries, Suzanne. You take care. It's fine. That's all good. Every one of them are lies. Everyone is covering their own backside, pretty much. Yeah, Julia, pretty much. Yeah. So, guys, just want to say, those who did come along with it, thank you so much for coming along. I hope you, I hope you guys found it informative or at least helpful of some sorts to you guys with regards to the COVID inquiry, some of the video clips that we watched there together. Obviously, I'm not going to watch the whole thing tomorrow. I'm not going to do it again tomorrow, and because I've got some stuff. I've got my own stuff to do tomorrow, so I'm not going to put myself through it again. But I will be back again at 9 o'clock tonight with a Snowflake's Corner. I've already got quite a few world news stories ready for you guys here. So I'll be back in less than 2 hours time with that. But just before you guys go, if I can just say, if you can hit the like button, it'd be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media. And if you hit that bell notification icon, you'll be notified of when I upload another video or when I go live. And of course, if you guys want to financially support me, you can do so by buying me a coffee or joining me on Patreon, and checking out some of my other links down below as well. So again, guys, thank you guys so much for coming along. Greatly appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys in a couple of hours time. I'm going to go and have some dinner. If you guys don't join me later on, that's totally fine as well. Whatever you guys do, take care and have a great rest of your evening, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.